A very warm welcome to everybody watching. We are moments away from one of the most anticipated World Championship matches in living memory. Vishy Anand, the reigning world champion, well, he's won the title 5 times. Whereas Magnus Carlsen, this is his first World Championship match.
What is the question that is mostly asked to you?
How did it all start, I guess?
Vent litt, Magnus, så kommer pappa.
When you have children, you have certain expectations. And certainly myself and my wife, we were looking for traits with the children.
Hei, gutt. Har du vært så flink å gå, da? Åh, du er flink. Ser du det store fjellet der? Det er Idalsfjell. Ser du det? Spisse der.
I think I was a bit concerned about the relative development of Magnus compared to other kids. It was kind of hard to give him instructions on how to do things physically. And it would be difficult simply to show him.
Magnus.
He's got to think about it.
Magnus.
Magnus was very often lost in thought when he was young. I remember when he was 4 years old, he had got a new Lego train and he very much wanted to finish it, so he was sitting for 6 hours and he hardly would eat. I mean, we really had to stop him at some point. And then he was lying with his eyes open, staring into the ceiling. He was processing what he had been doing for hours and hours with this Lego, really lost in thoughts. We introduced him to this flag book when he was 4, and there he could read all about the countries in the world and the municipalities in Norway and the details about how many people live and the size of the municipality or the size of the country. After some time, I think he knew all the countries, all the capitals, the same for most of the municipalities. My impression was that the numbers was telling him a story. Or more specifically, showing him a picture. When he talked about the numbers in this flag book, it was usually about the relationship between numbers. I told my wife that I think he can become a good chess player because he has these traits. That brought some self-confidence. It's obvious that Magnus liked the opportunities to delve into analytical problems of all kinds within chess. The game is easy to learn, but it's impossible for a human to master completely. After just 4 moves, there are a billion different alternatives. And as the game goes on, it's more or less infinite. Most of the strongest chess players in the world, they have learned this vast knowledge base through brute discipline. Long working hours, a lot of homework, and strict teachers normally. People told us that Magnus should do it this disciplined way, and if he didn't do it, he might waste his talent.
Jeg gjør ikke sånn veldig mye seriøst arbeid på egen hånd. Nabokrangelen tar jeg ingen kjære, altså TJ, mor.
Whether he was thinking about chess or reading Donald Duck, he was using the same playful approach, using his intuition, his curiosity.
Jeg tar ofte avgjørelser på intuisjon. Intuisjonen kommer jo litt av det med at da føler man at her er det noe. Jeg tror kanskje det at jeg offrer veldig mye bønner og sånn på intuisjon.
Og da har vi gleden av å presentere på delt førsteplass 13 år gamle Magnus Carlsen.
When he was making such huge progress, then I was starting to compare him with some of the internationally known players, and well, how good were they when they were that age? He was starting to measure up. I understood that if he continues like this, he's going to be very good. Then he started to travel to chess tournaments.
part of the city. Here's the definition. Place where there's one column is called Magna Mater.
A4.
Løpsløse.
Springer D2.
Oi. Springer F4.
Hopper inn der altså. Hva slår jeg? G slår F4.
Springer F4.
Dame G3.
B5. Sjakk.
Matt. Magnus was allowed to participate in the World Cup for the first time. There was this huge pressure, and he had all these expectations himself as well. So he obviously felt more pressure and more seriousness about the game and the outcome of the game than ever before. It was as if the brain was just spinning instead of working properly. His intuition would suffer, and it would be quite a devastating blow.
Da falt verden helt sammen, egentlig. Da jeg var ganske langt nede. Jeg var bare veldig sint. Da sov jeg veldig dårlig.
Of course, when Magnus started traveling a lot and spending so much time on chess, his social life, his lack of focus on school, made it different. During his 9th grade, I think it was a fairly tough environment. They were quite horrible.
Det en gjeng som veldig tøffe, da. Folk som redde for å gå forbi og sånn, da. Ja, altså, de prøver egentlig å plage meg mest mulig med det, så... Jeg blir jo på en måte utenfor fordi jeg jo veldig annerledes i klassen. Det mye vanskeligere å skulle være kul når jeg spiller sjakk.
He wanted to manage it in a way, and I think he didn't want to stand out by making problems about the situation.
Hold opp med den der. Yes. Altså, de lager kjøttkort. Ja.
Søstrene mine betyr veldig mye. Det er veldig viktig å ha dem med å leke og gjøre mye tull.
Och se där hoppar min känguru. Tyvärr är hon inte så ung, faller av. Jag ser där hoppar min känguru. Hon har massor av buteljer i sin pung, faller av.
Magnus went to Iceland in March 2004 to play Garry Kasparov. Garry Kasparov was ranked #1 in the world. Magnus was ranked 786. I think we all saw Kasparov at that time simply as an extremely energetic, aggressive genius who had conquered the chess world and stayed on top for 20 years.
It's amazing that sometime now I face the opponents that don't have rights to vote.
Det blir gøy å spille mot Kasparov.
Kanskje du slår han?
Jeg håper det. Jeg har jo ikke så mye å tape heller, da.
Magnus Carlsen, Leon Aronian, Alexei Drew, Mr. Anatoly Karpov, Michael Short, and then last, of course, Mr. Garry Kasparov.
game between Magnus Carlsen and Carica ended in a draw.
Det var egentlig en ganske positiv opplevelse. Følte at jeg kunne fighte like bra som han.
Det første partiet når pappa sier til meg at Magnus står veldig godt, da blir jeg litt sånn glad. Håper litt på at Magnus vinner og sånn.
Det er ikke pappa visste så mye om, for han ser alltid spøkelser.
Når jeg synes du stod godt, så pleier det å medføre riktig, altså. For da er det rimelig lett å se at du står godt.
Ja, det kan jeg se.
In the years to come, Magnus was focusing on chess more or less all the time.
Jeg håper på å bli verdensmester, men det får bare ta når tiden kommer. Jeg gjør mitt for å bli verdensmester.
And he was basically heading for the top.
År gamle Magnus Carlsen
sto for en sjakksensasjon da han I går.
Magnus Carlsen inntar en helt ny arena, en arena som trolig ingen ville spådd.
Syns jo at han en tryllekunstner.
14-årige Magnus Carlsen fra Lommedalen I Bærum vartet opp med
Magnus ettertraktet vare.
15 år gamle sjakkspilleren Magnus Carlsen.
Chess understanding is so high, is at such a level.
It's the Mozart of chess.
First of all, he has deep knowledge.
Phenomenon of a king.
Productive player.
It's amazing.
Magnus Carlsen. I love to help him and I love to travel with him. I cannot really help him with his chess, but I can be there and help with some practical stuff.
I try not to think about it at all, but sometimes before games I think that, wow, I could be number one now.
Mine damer og herrer, prisen går til prinsen av sjakk, Magnus Carlsen.
The winner of the World Chess Challenge 2010. Congratulations, Magnus Carlsen.
This week, Harvard University welcomes the 22-year-old Magnus Carlsen from Norway, who has broken all records on the FIDE ranking list. Today, Magnus plays blindfolded chess, and not only that, he plays against 10 of the best chess-playing lawyers in the world, which means that Magnus must remember the position of 320 pieces and their movements while calculating 10 moves and counter moves on each board.
Dronning slår D2. Bord 8 E5. Bord 9 dronning H5. Bord 1 dronning slår H8. Bord 10 tårn slår E6. Bord 5 dronning D2. Bord 7 A3. Bord 6 dronning E5 matt. 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 Matt.
Writing from memory the moves of a match. I mean, someone else gets an autograph, I get the whole match.
Most impressive thing I've ever seen.
How often will you say that you think about chess?
It's hard to say. Sometimes it feels like all the time. Sometimes I get a bit of a break, but it's always, it's almost always in the back of my mind.
Do you think about chess now?
Yes.
What do you think about?
It's different fragments of games. My mind is just analyzing stuff in the background.
One of the reasons why he's really good at playing chess is that his mind is working with chess problems kind of all day. And it can be a bit frustrating because he will sometimes just like drop out of a conversation. What?
Du kan vrenge beina ut der, så kan du ikke her.
Fortsatt så er det.
Yeah, I will be. My mind will be somewhere else. I will be thinking about certain games, certain positions. I'm not one of those, in lack of a better expression, borderline nutcases. But I think I am naturally more introvert than extrovert. Yeah. When I see a chess position, I always have some idea very quickly of what I should do, and I can see these things immediately where other people see chaos. Pieces appear on the squares in the blink of an eye. It happens automatically.
Neste uke starter Magnus Carlsen på det han kaller sin viktigste turnering noensinne.
For neste uke gjelder det Magnus Carlsen har vunnet alt utenom VM. Et 3 ukers blodslit starter i London.
The Mozart of chess, Magnus Carlsen, will attempt to qualify for the World Chess Championship. And if he succeeds, the undisputed world champion, Vishy Anand, will be ready for him. Anand has won the World Championship 5 times.
It's a big deal. I've been really motivated for the candidates tournament. If I were to become world champion at one point, that would be great.
Welcome to the candidates tournament here in London, the tournament that will decide the next Chess World Championship challenger to face reigning world champion Vishy Anand. And these 8 players are, of course, exceptional talents. 8 players of a chess community numbering into the hundreds of millions all over the world. Just goes to show how brilliant these guys are.
Arbiters, please start the clock.
Game 1 has begun. Aronian Carlsen, what a game to begin this tournament.
Okay, draw for black for Magnus in his first game, can't be bad.
It's nice just to get going, and this is good results.
Particularly with the black pieces, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hello everybody and welcome to the next round of the candidates.
This is very good news for Magnus.
No, I'm very happy to win.
That is that, ladies and gentlemen. Carlsen has won. Very important draw. Magnus Carlsen has won.
This boy never loses.
Magnus Carlsen is out in front with 6 points out of 9 games. I think he should be handicapped somehow, like golf. I think he should only play with one eye or something.
Yeah, standing on his head.
So round 11 has finished. Magnus Carlsen drew, but his greatest rival in the tournament, Vladimir Kramnik, won his game, meaning that Kramnik is now snapping at the heels of Magnus Carlsen. And look at Magnus, you can see he's not happy at all today.
Welcome to round 12 of the candidates tournament. Magnus today is white against Vasily Ivanchuk, who, as we all know, has lost so many games. Yeah. Magnus has got a huge score against Ivanchuk. Hold on, he's played Rook H6.
Yeah. Rook H6 looks like a bad move to me.
Rook H6 looks like a horror move. Oh no, he knows he's in trouble.
I think Magnus has gone.
He just resigned, oh my word. And Magnus lost with white against Vasily. How is he going to come back from this?
It's not too clear, but it's definitely, much better than what I did.
When the stakes were high during the candidates, suddenly he had something to lose. He felt all the pressure and he had trouble coping with it.
The French structure, position.
Так, ну это не могла быть так моя идея, когда я вас висел.
Yes, actually, because of my...
It's just yeah, it's just a feeling of something's gone horribly wrong. You can just feel it when your intuition doesn't work. It's like you cannot speak the language anymore. You used to be fluent, and now you cannot find the words. I could not sleep. I lay awake thinking about the next game actually for 2 days. It feels a bit like you're going crazy. Mind is spinning and
Hello everybody and welcome to the final game of the candidates tournament. The situation is clear. Magnus Carlsen must win today to ensure his place in the World Championship finals.
F3 played. Oh no, this looks horrible.
I think he's made a huge mistake.
Oh my goodness. No, this is gone.
It's lost here.
Carlsen loses in the crucial game of the candidates tournament. What a devastating day for the Norwegian. He has lost and collapsed under pressure, and now destiny is out of his hands. If Vladimir Kramnik avoids defeat, it will be the Russian who qualifies to play Vishy Anand.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, we start the press conference, and the game between Magnus Carlsen and Peter Svidler just finished in favor of Peter Svidler. So can we speak a little bit about this game? I mean, can you share with us what was happening?
Well, shall I start? Or?
Yeah, please, Peter.
Yeah, well, I was trying to equalize, and then Magnus perhaps overestimated his position.
Vladimir Kramnik has played the move rook to c8, but
Rook c8 was a blunder, maybe, no?
Rook c8 might be a blunder. Well, Vlad must be extremely nervous.
But something happened here.
This is incredible. Well, poor old Vlad. He probably thought Magnus won't lose with white today. This is absolutely game over because white would then have c4 would be an idea. But there would be two passed pawns.
and that's it. Kramnik has resigned. This is unbelievable. Meaning that Magnus Carlsen, he lost the final game. He needed a miracle from the gods. He needed Kramnik to lose. And Kramnik, against all odds, has lost. Magnus Carlsen has won the candidates tournament and will face Vishy Anand for the World Championship title.
så i dag så gikk det jo dårlig. I dag gikk jo alt som kunne gå galt, bortsett fra at Kramnik tapte, så da vant jeg likevel.
It really is the resurrection. I mean, nobody expected this, as you can, not even you expected this.
Definitely not.
But now Magnus, you've got a big challenge ahead of the match.
Jeg er bare totalt utladet. Jeg har ingenting igjen. Det er jo egentlig sånn det skal være da, I løpet av på slutten av en sånn turnering.
He gets so angry at himself when he loses and when he makes mistakes. And he expects so much of himself. He doesn't want to like talk to people and talk about it.
Some of my demons I keep only to myself. It's easiest that way. Because not sharing is usually easier than sharing. At least that's the way I feel. It is definitely a huge frustration to feel that you're the only one who understands something, and that's really the lonely part about being a chess player. It's really all up to you, and obviously being at chess tournaments, being away, always dealing with your own demons and problems with the chess. It's sometimes tough, but it's part of the job.
It has been confirmed that the World Championship match will take place.
in Chennai, India, in Vishy Anand's hometown.
உலக சாம்பியன் விஸ்வநாதன் ஆனந்த் மற்றும் நார்வேயின் மார்கன்ஸ் கார்லெசன்
VM-kampen mot Vishy Anand skal spelas
i Anands hjemby Chennai.
Is set to defend his title against Magnus Carlsen of Norway.
I met Anand when he was maybe 17 years old or 18. He came in when we just produced the computer chess program ChessBase, and we adapted the program to suit his needs. The preparation is part of chess. However, computers have made it a very, very powerful weapon. Anand, from the very beginning, wanted to get the newest versions of it to profit from new features we implemented. He worked so consequently and so deeply and profoundly with it. He's a person of high technical skills. He became the most competent user of computers I have ever seen. Today, Anand is very, very computer intense. When he comes back from dinner, he switches on computers, puts positions in, starts analysis and so on, and then he says, okay, let's go for a walk, or let's go upstairs and let's have some coffee and so on. And then 10 or 15 minutes later, he goes downstairs, he checks okay, this thing has found something, this hasn't yet. Anand has created a whole revolution of chess. Tens of thousands of students say, I want to be like Anand.
Ja, men det kan vi fortsätta. Hold där fast. Den accelererar bra.
Ja, jag är riktigt bra.
So we're here in Kragerø in southern Norway. Been here for a little more than a week. My preparation is taking shape, but still a lot to do.
You know, he may not always be the most serious guy in training, but in his head, he has stuff going on, and it's a different approach than maybe other kinds of schools.
Brilliant. Ja, det skjønte jeg. Jeg satt og så på G6E for meg, men det er helt ubrukelig.
Magnus' style is about getting both players to think for themselves, so that it's a battle of the mind rather than the battle of who can use the computer best.
I had looked through all of Anand's games, and in the process I got a bit scared of the player that he was. I mean, I saw so many games.
Our biggest concern would be that Magnus loses a game without Anand ever having to think for himself, just reciting the computer's recommendations.
I know how important this is for him. His youth was spent playing chess, and that's kind of what has formed him as a person.
When Magnus felt like an outsider, it became even more important to prove that he was really good at this, and this is where he belongs.
Nothing else in the world matters as much to him as being good, because that's the thing he does, and that's the only thing he's been doing.
Anand knows everything there is to know about Magnus Carlsen. And it's not just Anand, it's a team of grandmasters. They usually have one section of the hotel. They have 5 or 6 rooms, and each grandmaster sitting behind a computer looking for Magnus's weaknesses. He's looking for positions in which he can get into Magnus's game with an advantage. It's absolutely clear that Anand has won individual games in World Championship matches purely by preparation.
Well, it's always a concern to get knocked out in the opening. Just to play a whole game where he hasn't had to make a single move of his own. I mean, that's the greatest fear.
I'm very happy that the World Championship is happening here in Chennai, in my hometown. And I really want to thank Honorable Chief Minister Jayalalitha for organizing this event so well.
Thank you very much. And then, please, Magnus Carlsen, your words. What do you feel?
Everything looks good so far, and I'm looking forward to the match starting.
A very warm welcome to everybody watching. We are live here at the Hyatt Hotel in Chennai, and we are moments away from one of the most anticipated World Championship matches in living memory. The first person to reach 6.5 points wins, and they will play a maximum of 12 games. So Vichy is taking his time, some psychological games going on maybe.
I've actually never seen Magnus like this, and normally he always is the one who comes later, and he looks quite, he knows that this is the big one, this is what is left for him, and you can see it on him.
And here comes the world champion, walking in. Oh my goodness, this is it, guys. We are seconds away from this match kicking off. Did they have a handshake? Maybe they shook hands before we saw, I'm not sure, but it didn't look like we had a handshake there. No eye contact just yet. Lots of photographs, as you can expect. Tension is just unbearable. After 4 moves, they both put their bishops on the long diagonal, and we have a symmetrical position here.
What's interesting is that Vichy is not thinking for too long before making moves, so it means he's obviously prepared.
Anand is doing quite well.
All of you Vichy fans out there, I would be rather happy right now.
Now,
Okay.
they just shook
Yeah,
hands.
they just shook hands.
Magnus, in this particular position, didn't have much of a choice, and I bet that Magnus is perhaps a bit disappointed.
This has been an excellent outcome for Vishy Anand.
Of course, today went satisfactorily, that's clear. Fairly comfortable draw with black.
Question to Magnus. You were quite nervous today. Is there a move that you expected from Anand or feared from Anand at some point?
I mean, really, I didn't spend much time regretting my moves, if that's what you're asking. I think that's completely the wrong focus.
Considering that Anand has a good very play by intuition.
And I think you are the front of
Like both of you have a good contrast. So in the character.
The first person to lose will have an extremely tough time coming back.
And Magnus is finding it hard.
Oh my goodness, he dropped the pawn. Shaky hands from the start, a very nervous Magnus Carlsen. Oh my goodness. That's the second time this game. His body language says it all. The sign of Magnus not feeling so comfortable at the moment. It reminds me of the Magnus we saw at the candidates tournament. A lot of people said Magnus is not very well prepared, he's not really worked on his opening.
But here he's up against Vishy, who is so good with his openings. He's got such a good team in place for it. And Magnus is finding it hard to even get a normal long game.
And that's it. It's over. It's a draw. Well, in this game, it's clear Anand is better. Hello and a very warm welcome to everybody tuning in. It is game 3. The reigning world champion is already in his seat waiting for the challenger. Magnus, by my clock, he's got about a minute to turn up. Remember, there is a special rule in place, a controversial rule, that if you arrive late for the game, be it 5 seconds or even 1 second, that you will lose the game. If he doesn't turn up, Vishy Anand's going to win the game.
For those of you who don't know, this is the zero tolerance rule, and yeah, he should be getting there soon, yeah?
And here comes the challenger walking in, strolling in, the handshake, and they're off.
And it starts.
Carlsen plays the move pawn to e3, but this move looks like a sign of desperation. I don't like his position at all. Carlsen's suffering continues, and Magnus struggling with white again. And Magnus Carlsen, he has survived today by the skin of his teeth. Carlsen has offered a draw in this endgame. Well, Vichy would never lose this. These two players will now have a day of rest. Magnus Carlsen, he's going to have a real think about how...
The pressure during the match is enormous. I mean, it's continuous.
We decided to travel to Chennai to support Magnus. We really wanted to be there for him and give him all our support. Klarer ikke at alle skal være strenge her. Hva gjør du med at jeg er streng? Du tar den strengeste hun.
Alle gjør som jeg har sagt, for det bestemmer jeg.
Nei. Idiot.
Det var tomt. Jeg trodde
du spurte det etter at du hadde lagt den på. Herregud.
Magnus har jo dårlig kort.
Pappa.
Det henne. Ja, men jeg vet jo at det henne jeg skal spise.
Det ikke noe problem.
It's so important to try to relax and try to forget about why you're there and the tension. The same way you should do the activities that you used to do as a child, as a youth, that made you relax and laugh and have fun. If you repeat those activities, you will get some of the same effect.
Han drømte om å løse verdens sultproblem ved å forstørre naturproduktene.
Hei!
Men det er jo tornerosesymbolet. En esoterisk orden som dro fra Europa til øst.
Nå ble jeg at du så ligner på Tarzan. Du må jo sette på en sånn apeorkester. Ja.
Magnus looking very relaxed today.
We're going to have a really different kind of game today. We could have fireworks very early on. The games that arise from this particular opening are extremely sharp.
It's a crazy game. This leads to a lot of crazy positions.
Yeah. We're more in Carlsen's preparation than Vichy's here. So very interesting, new territory. So trying to surprise Vichy. I'm pretty sure now Vichy is out of his preparation if he was in it in the first place. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it's sort of this God-given gift of just knowing how to slowly build pressure.
Right.
It's really sad from Anand's perspective, and I think he knows that he may be minutes away from needing to resign.
Without doubt, the single most important victory in Magnus Carlsen's career so far. And Game 6 is underway. Magnus is looking strong today. Just placing the pieces so effortlessly, it's almost like he doesn't have to think about it.
Anand made a major mistake. It's game over. Anand just resigned.
And Magnus Carlsen winning Game 6. That means he's got a 2-point advantage.
How is it possible for Magnus to be so good? This is impossible. It's just impossible to do for a human brain, and he's doing it. It can only be compared, for example, to climbing Everest in tennis shoes with no oxygen.
And the clock has been started, first move has been made.
It's man against man now, and that's bad news for Anand. It's almost like Magnus is looking through the matrix, where he's inside the game. It's another draw to Magnus's advantage.
So the score is 4.5 to 2.5. Carlsen team and Magnus himself should be quite pleased.
It is time for desperate measures. Magnus Carlsen, the Mozart of chess. Again, it's another draw to Magnus's advantage.
Oh
Bishop
my
F1,
God, I'm
Queen
very
D1,
excited.
hold on. Knight F1.
I mean, he plays
Queen E1.
And Magnus has played
He's played
Queen
it
E1.
so quickly, and Vichy will soon know by looking at his face.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
This is bad.
Poor old Vichy.
And he's
resigned.
Can you say any?
I don't know. No, nothing.
It's the last game, and Magnus only needs a draw to become the new world champion. It's a talent that comes from another universe, quite simply.
I mean, he calculated it till the very end.
And basically, this is it, guys, because let's analyze. This is the current position.
Oh my
This is it.
God. And we have
And we
a
have a
world
new
champion.
world champion. Unbelievable.
Magnus Carlsen.
Well, I can only imagine what's going through Magnus Carlsen's mind right now. This is something he has wanted his whole life. It's been his ultimate goal, and he's finally achieved it.
It was taking surprisingly long for him to kind of appreciate what he had done.
Hej, ciao Magnus. Hej, tusen takk for en fantastisk opplevelse.
Jo, takk for det, altså. Jeg er ikke veldig fornøyd med deg, da.
Det var ikke noe krise i dag, da.
Jo, men jeg er jo sjakkspiller. Jeg kunne jo fått dronningsspill med altså kong D4. Altså, jeg satt jo og analyserte en evighet på springer H5. Så tenkte jeg til slutt, altså...
Hva står det her, få se? Verdensmester, så.
Oh, you're back. Ah, you should be a very happy man. You come from Norway and conquer India. Ah. Congratulations for me.
Well, champion. Thank you.
Er det boffelfisk? Oi! Den må du lenger ut på landet med.
Over the years, Magnus has kind of changed as a person.
I think he's happy about his situation in life.
He will take the family on trips because he likes to be with his family and he likes to give back to us because he appreciates what we do for him.
Ja, men nå blir det mat. Det blir ja, litt forskjellige retter. Vi kan dele med family style.
he's kind of more and more evolved into liking spending time with other people. He's not afraid of social settings anymore because he knows he can handle them.
Oh, that was quick. Oh, that was bad.
Magnus is the youngest #1 ever. And no one can explain to you how he does what he does. It seems to come from another world.
I always enjoyed watching his games because it makes me feel proud about the game of chess. I think it's very important that the game of chess has such an ambassador.
You like Magnus?
Has it been a mystery to me that Magnus has become so good? All the time, I have to pinch my arm.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you the upcoming campaign model for G-Star, Mr. Magnus Carlsen.
I was kind of shocked because I thought if any of us siblings would do anything even related to fashion, the last person would be Magnus.
Oh my gosh, how hot is he?
You can't be smart and good looking. That's not fair.
It was really interesting to work with someone who's so different to me and so sort of intelligent.
I made a quiz for Magnus.
Snakker vi Fischer Tarman nå? Vancouver 1971. Det er riktig. Det stinker jo Botunik Capablanca her. Snakker vi Rubinstein Lasker, Maxim Marcella Gras, Carlsen Blomqvist, Island 2001. Det er så forutsigbar. If I have the time, I can calculate 100 moves ahead.
Sometimes you can see that his mind just wanders off. You can see that his mind's just spinning somewhere else.
If I have somebody that wants to play or wants to learn, that's what I do.
I was just by the Washington Square Park and I thought, well, why not play a game?
No, I don't know who it was. I tried to, win. But even like maybe 10 moves, he checkmate me.
It's like having a birthday party and not expecting a guest.
People have described you as the Mozart of chess.
I'm never going to play chess perfectly. I make positional mistakes, I make tactical mistakes, and I usually make many of them in each and every game.